Yeah.
Now I'm going live. I think we're live. Hello. Welcome, everybody, to the check-in. This is our third start because I've been pushing all the wrong buttons now. But it looks like we're really live here. Okay. So we're going to chat a little bit about the retail industry and talk about the news and check in with some friends.
There we go.
Hopefully everything will go well and give everybody watching along at home a chance to call in and have some fun as well. So that said, let's go around and introduce everybody. In no particular order, we got Sonal Patel, who's a great friend of mine from way back, and she's an industry seer and overall smart person, especially when it comes to digital stuff. Say hi, Sonal.
Hi there. Hi, everyone.
And everybody can hear all right? Yeah, right.
I can see it on the chat too.
Everything right, great. And then next to her, we've got Bryan Meszaros. He is the president and CEO of OpenEye Global, and they do a lot of really cool in-store digital work and retail experiences, and just an overall smart design, creative guy, somebody good to know when we're reinventing an industry like the retail industry here. Say hi, Bryan.
Hey, everyone. I'm Phil. I'm good. By the way, I'm going to copy that whole line. That's going to be my new intro. That's my voicemail, actually.
Absolutely. Okay, and I'm happy to record that on your answering machine if you like to.
Oh, nice.
All right. And then finally, but not finally, Manolo, a partner in crime from way back. Say hi, Manolo.
Hey, everyone.
He's from Q Division, a division of Stratacash, and he's worked with everybody in the retail industry and talks a lot. And if you've gone to any conferences at all about retail, you've seen him speaking about robots and smart stuff that are related to retail.
And Star Wars. I do talk about Star Wars too.
That's right. So. He's actually sitting in the actual Millennium Falcon right now. Just be careful of those buttons on the left there.
Yeah. Okay.
So, how are you guys holding up? How you doing? Everybody's at home, presumably, other than Manolo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're hanging in there.
Hold up. Fine. You got enough food? Manolo, you got, I guess you all have some level of family. Kiddos. Bryan, do you have kids?
No, not yet. Not yet.
Okay,
not
good
yet.
for you.
Just my wife.
Good for you.
Maybe after this, being cooped up at home.
You never know. I hear talk. I hear talk.
That's
but,
right.
So for some
the next
of us,
baby boom.
Right. So for some of us, this is just like extraordinary downtime. You get to pick up a new hobby and you get to develop some cooking skills. And then there's the others of us who just can't wait for schools to be back open.
Yeah.
So I hear.
We're also doing virtual play dates. So there's
How does that work?
Wow.
So it's on Zoom, and you basically dial in, and it's just, I've got a kid at the age of parallel play, so they don't even look at each other, but they just know that the other person's there, and they're still just playing side by side.
I see.
Yeah.
How long does that go on for? Like
it can go on for about 50 minutes. But even the parents
really?
sort of say, yeah, you just leave it on. They're just there. They just know that they're there.
Are they playing the same thing, or is it totally different? No, they're wow. They're just there.
They're just, it's really.
So that could really just be a video loop that you could just play.
Completely.
And you don't really need to take up the bandwidth for that.
Yeah.
It's
you
awful.
just have a 24-hour,
There is another child in the house.
Yeah. That's a great idea for a YouTube channel. It's like mukbang, but for play dates.
I love this. Love this idea. Yeah. Look at what your friend is doing. Look how well behaved they are right now. Why can't you be more like Karen?
Well, we also have a chinchilla, so I've considered putting, all these.
That's awesome.
Yeah, all these zoos and public places are doing live webcams.
I've seen that.
Go to the zoo, and so I figured if I stick a camera in there, you could watch it wouldn't be that interesting. It's like sleep 23 hours and then eat a raisin and then sleep
Maybe
again.
other chinchillas would like to watch that. Again, another business opportunity for you. We've got to really look at opportunities these days.
But it's funny, a lot of them are doing. I've noticed a couple of it, and then I think I heard this morning that DC set up a camera to watch the cherry blossoms live.
Okay, that's something.
So I mean, if you want to, stare at trees for several hours, but
That's
hey,
nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
it's something.
So you guys have enough groceries, or you got enough toilet paper? Everybody got what they need there? Good.
Yeah, I feel like I hit the jackpot the other day. I wasn't really looking for paper towels, and I found paper towels in the Staples, and I went to a brewery because now it's to go orders, and I had a beer and I had paper towels, so I felt like I was a king.
Wow, man.
That's all you need.
It was a party that night. I'll tell you.
Living like the 1%.
There's a real shortage in Australia, and apparently a newspaper printed the last 4 pages of their paper blank so that you could use it as toilet paper.
That's great.
Wow.
Not the first time.
They're for thinking, yeah.
Right.
Well, not everybody in the world uses toilet paper. I was reading another article about the fact that, first of all, the TP industry is saying there's no shortage. They just make it on demand, right? So it's not like they put them in warehouses stocked up and waiting for us to use them. But then I read about how North America, United States is like one of the biggest users of toilet paper. So that's why people freak out. But, back in Asia, it's all about the bidet. And,
Yeah.
if you've ever gone to the bathroom in Japan, that wondrous thing that they have.
The Cadillac of Totos with the heater and the blow dryer built into the seat and a rinser. Oh man.
You never want to get up. I mean,
I would definitely go for one of those. I bet you couldn't buy one right now. I'm actually on their website right now trying to see like what would it take to get one of those things right now. But yeah, it's called the
Wasn't
Toto.
there, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was a movie with Sylvester Stallone a couple of years ago, and it was the 3 shells that he had to learn.
Demolition Man.
No, but
well done.
Demolition Man, yes. Wesley Snipes, yes, thank you. Bonus points.
Well done. But there is a direct consumer brand that's saying that it has 10x more sales because they have like a DIY bidet system. So literally people are shifting their behavior.
Yeah, I've seen this. I think you retrofits just the seat part. You don't replace the whole bowl. You just sort of and you connect the plumbing up yourself.
Yep.
Great.
But that's one of those things that's a behavior that you didn't expect. It's one of those things now that a direct consumer brand is skyrocketing because of this situation. It's amazing.
I think that's a great point that you bring up, the whole direct to consumer and being able to manage this supply chain and your whole warehousing and everything, and that might be an interesting we can get to that in a little bit, but I think the new models of retailing that are going to come out of this will be very interesting and probably sobering for a lot of people initially, but might create some really interesting opportunities. So we'll get to that in just a second. I want to kind of go around just for a minute and ask everybody, just from a work standpoint, how has your sort of daily work routine or weekly work routine been affected or not? And both positive and good. I mean, everybody's learning to use Zoom, as it was evident as we were pushing 100 buttons here this morning. But what else? Like, how are you working? Bryan, how is your office working?
We've actually never had an office. So right from the get-go, we've always been virtual.
That's great.
And I mean, we've had 18 years to perfect our processes, but we have, he's joined me, we use Zoom, we use Teams, we have, all our stuff on Google Drive and Docs. So Creative Cloud. So from a process and functioning, we've not really missed a beat. Nothing is changed. I think the only, obviously, some of our clients have closed their locations for obvious reasons, but there's still, projects going on in terms of design, which we can still do. A lot of the installs obviously will have to be on the back burner, but we've I don't want to say mastered it, but we have a really good workflow and processes built in to host our virtual meetings, to get ourselves together for project work. So I think we've been fortunate in that we didn't really have to scramble to find new platforms to set up for ourselves. We already have the infrastructure in place.
Right. And what about like working with clients? Are they adapting, or you know, is it you experiencing any speed bumps or any efficiencies even in the new workflow?
No, which is kind of, it's a really good question. No, I mean, we have clients that love our model and have adapted. I mean, they go on into, obviously each one of our platforms, we can create user accounts for them to come on and view the work. Obviously some of the face-to-face meetings are put on hold, but then we compensate for, you know, bringing them into our online platforms. And I think they've been very comfortable. We have a good onboarding process with them as well to educate them on how we collaborate and how we work virtually. And they love it. It's very accommodating, I think, to their schedules. And so yeah, we're still in constant communication with our clients, and
Yeah.
you know, we're adapting to their schedule. And I think they love the fact of knowing that there's still a team behind their projects going on. And
Yeah.
nothing, we haven't really had to alter much of it, to be honest.
Right. In terms of like sort of the breadth of jobs that you have in the house right now, have you had cancellations, slowdowns, any formal sort of announcement? I know I would imagine your projects are a little longer term, a little more development time. What's the turnaround on those?
It's yeah, they definitely slowed down. I mean, themed entertainment is, you know, we had some projects there that have been put on hold because obviously a lot of the venues are closed. We have some financial clients, and you know, those are the ones that obviously are staying open. You know, their facilities are open under different guidelines and premises, but you know, we do have a bunch of digital signage deployments, and messaging is critical for them during this time. So you know, we are working, you know, daily with those guys, and some of our transportation and even retail projects obviously been put on hold. The design part of it is going,
right,
because there's the whole, you know, obviously we don't know when the end date is for, you know, putting it up, but we're kind of lucky that, you know, we stage a lot of this, you know, basically in our, you know, our virtual offices in our homes. So we could still finish up the development of projects and be ready for when they're back and running. So
right.
the only thing that's shifted is just the final date for when something can go live,
Right,
the physical part of it.
Yeah. Well, so what about you, Sonal? You're virtual anyway. You're like
I'm
the
virtual
digital,
anyway.
so you're always on the road.
Yeah, I mean, I'm virtual. I do have a couple of
I don't
conference
think she
calls.
actually exists in real life. I think it's a hologram.
Actually, it's funny. People want to do video calls more now when it's you know, less convenient. But what's been interesting for me is that everyone wants to put some sort of communications out there about the coronavirus. You know, how they're dealing with it. Something, a note to internally, and then a note to customers. So partners and then external customers. And we're also determining a couple of product launches and other launches have kind of been put on hold just because we figured it's sort of a communications blackout period. We don't really necessarily want to get our news lost in the sea of all this sort of panic that's and other communications that's going out there. But on the same side of not communicating, I'm still getting all the emails from other people. For example, I thought it was interesting, Loft sent me a marketing email saying, you know, we hope you're doing well and here's how we're doing. And it had people in their offices working with their assistants, which was their dog or their cat. And, you know, it was really cute. And at the bottom, it still gave a 40% offer, you know, so it's kind of like you balance that idea of saying we're here for you and we don't want to, you know, but we're still in business.
Yeah, it's a tricky tone. It's a tricky sort of a straddling of genuineness and marketing, right?
Right. And then I also have been working with a digital agency who took the opportunity to sort of send something out saying, well, now's the time to go digital. And by the way, here's this guide from Google that says, you know, it gives you some stats on what people are searching for, how long this will last, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, the consensus is that, you know, well, they're promoting don't stop marketing because now's the time to keep going, because when this is over, you need to still be present. So
I hear a lot of that, people quoting, I forget the quote offhand, like, but in good times, it's easy to market or advertise. In tough times, you have to advertise. And I really hear that mostly from advertisers, people who make money off the advertising industry. And not that we do as well, but I wonder really, at some point you would expect people start to pull back, and it's a shame for the industry. But like, what is the message? Even our clients were like, how do you be genuine and thoughtful and really trying to hit the right tone, but stay in front of mind, if that's even necessary? Is that a tricky thing that you're struggling with?
Yeah, I mean, it's it's like, you still need to send reminders too, because there's the initial email. Typically, we're following this. We send the initial email out, saying, we're thinking of you. We're here. Let us know. This is how we're dealing with it. So this is what to expect from us in terms of service interruptions. But then it can't just be that one-off, because this is not going to be quick.
Right.
So then what do you do next? So it's a series of communications of always being helpful and sharing something, but also staying top of mind. And
Right. It's tricky. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's come back to that. But I just want to check in now with Manny, because we didn't get you in terms of your workflow. Now, I know you are typically on the road, 3 out of 4 weeks a month, and so that's got to have changed. And what's your tolerance for travel and ability to do your work?
It's actually very similar to how Bryan was talking about his workflow. We are very virtual and we have offices all over the place. But I think the biggest new thing is people want to see your face. Before, we would get on Zoom calls and we'd have no cameras. So I think in this current world where we're socially disconnected, you actually crave to see people's expressions when you're talking to them. So, thus my background. But I mean, normally I wouldn't even have my camera on. And I think even our clients are asking us to say, hey, can we turn on the cameras? Can we see people? And I think
I think we're hungering to have a connection, human connection these days. I know, I mean, I don't know how long you guys have been holed up, but we're going on our second week, our family, of kind of being locked down. And I just will talk with everybody just because I want to see people's faces. Is that?
Well, they also said, don't call it social distancing, call it physical distancing. Because when we call it social distancing, it sounds like we're not connecting and we all feel isolated. So what it really is physical distancing.
I interrupted you, Manny, but go ahead. Sorry.
You did? What was I talking about?
I don't know. You were talking about your clients and how
they want to see you.
Yeah, they want to see
you. No, but I think that's it. I think also it is helping people, to your point about social or isolation. I used to take it for granted that I would just listen for people's tone in their voice to understand if they're getting me or understanding what I'm saying. But now the visual cues are extremely, it's very important. Like, I think from now on, I'm going to say cameras on all the time, even though
I think
a lot of people don't want to do that.
I really have been like asking people, and we've had Zoom calls where people will dial in, just on the phone, you can dial in and it'll have the black square, and I'll be like, turn your camera on. I want to see your face, because I think that's maybe a neat thing that will come from all this, is that we really value that eyeball contact. Yeah. So anyway, all right. So that said, we're all, having our different level of, Manny, one of the things I wanted to ask you before we move on, your clients, are they throttling back a little bit on their work? Are they slowing down the work throughput, or are they really trying to do everything that you had on the books for the last couple of months? Or what's the volume like?
I think the discussion has changed to what should we be doing now. I think it's recalibrating the strategy for the year and kind of bringing things that we were planning for third quarter into this quarter and that and vice versa. Because part of where we work is also on the e-commerce side and the operations side on the back end. And I think, for instance, we do a lot of work on robotic automation and BOPIS, which of course is paramount now. And so I think what you're seeing, even from Amazon, is they've had to throttle back on things because it's kind of like when, they talk about the Super Bowl, if everyone flushed their toilet at the same time, it would just blow everything up. I mean, that's basically what's happening on e-commerce now and retail operations. So we're looking at ways and learning from the situation on how to scale up and down and handle such intense ordering online when everybody has to order online and everyone needs to pick up and you can't have more than 30 people in a store. Like all of these things are helping these retailers say, you know what, let's go back and look at everything and say, let's reprioritize. So I think what'll happen is it'll just flip flop what's happening in the industry today. I think you're still going to see people doing things like, cashierless check-in and all that other stuff, but it'll reverse itself because at hand there's an operational issue that you need to solve today. For other things is like, what happens when you close down a store or a branch for this situation? Then you have to realize, did I really need that branch? Did I really need that store? I think that's another key piece.
So I think that's a natural segue into our next little. I want to kind of hit a couple of the hot news, retail news of the day. But I think what you said was really key there, because my own sort of economic theory of the retail landscape is that, if we think back 3, 6, 9 months ago, there was a lot of talk amongst a lot of retailers about what are we going to do to pivot, to this new age of online retail. And there were a lot of brands that were not doing a good job at it. And my personal little micro philosophy about this whole coronavirus is it's going to be like a time machine where it's going to actually kill off a lot of businesses that were kind of going to die anyway, maybe over the next 2 years. And this is going to be a great excuse for a lot of retailers to say, well, we just got killed by the coronavirus. And it'll take a lot of the weight off their shoulder and they'll just blame the coronavirus. But the point is, we all knew in the retail industry that changes had to be made. This is really going to force our hands and just be like, okay, we're almost starting a fresh slate. And to Manolo's point, there's going to be a lot of businesses shutting down, a lot of businesses, coming to half their size. Would you guys agree with that?
I would definitely agree with that. It's interesting for me at this moment because as I was saying, what everyone was saying before, I just moved. So here I am in a new place, and there's a lot of things I need to get, and there's a lot of stores that are not open. But it's interesting to see how many of those retailers, where they're at currently with even a mobile strategy. Best Buy is staying open as a retail store. You can order on the mobile app and they'll bring it out to you, but not a lot of other stores have that infrastructure. So I think you're absolutely right. I think they are recognizing that if they were holding back on non-investing and more of these technologies, this is going to be that tipping point for them. And I think on the flip side too, there are a lot of retailers that, I think missed that window, and this could unfortunately be very difficult to come back from. This is just such a crazy time, and I think you end up having, I think what's interesting too is you end up forming different loyalties now with brands that are there through this crisis that you could depend on, and that mentality will stick with you once we all recover from this, because it's those brands you look at and saying, well, they're innovative and knew how to be there through any type of situation. And there's some brands that you just unfortunately cannot depend on that you may be dependent upon in the past. So I see that also impacting the brand loyalty side.
Well, is it a question of who's going to have the most loyalty and they'll stay afloat, or is it just a more simpler equation of the bigger guys with the longer runway, the more corporate brands are going to be sticking around longer, and maybe a lot of these mom and pop you know, a dozen chains or, you know, barely franchised are going to be gone by the wayside, regardless of how strong their following is.
I don't think I think there are some in mom and pops, and I, you know, I see it in our community. I'm sure a lot of us do, that have been creative and have used, you know, Square, just other mobile ordering apps that have kept them afloat during this time. So I don't want to dismiss their mom and pops or say it's doom and gloom for them, because I think we've all seen there's a lot of really great technologies for small businesses that if they implemented them properly, or even just go now and implement them, then there's ways for them to survive and to grow and to come out of this unscathed to a degree. So I don't think it's over for them as well. If anything, I think it sort of brings to life that there are these, you know, there are easier methods for, you know, conducting retail transactions that that are available without having to break the bank and out having to have millions and millions of dollars behind you in order to survive.
Yeah. I tell you, again, Manolo, did you have something to add to that?
No, I think Brian's right. I think what it's going to do is force the smaller and mid-sized companies to, you know, I hate to use the term rethink, but they really are going to rethink how they do things. What we're going to see is people that have not normally done things like buy groceries online. That's always been kind of the challenge, is getting people to buy groceries online. So now we're forcing people who have been reluctant to do it. And then they're going to have that as a habit and say, look, this wasn't as bad as I thought. Then you're going to have these companies, you know, I was reading about these bakeries that get tons of raw materials like eggs and flour and sugar shipped to them, and they can't, you know, they're not selling any finished products. So they actually are turning into small grocery stores and selling their raw products to people who need those staples. And it's changing the way people think about their business. And you know what I mean? You can change and turn into a small grocery store or a convenience store overnight if you really think it through.
Right. That's good to hear that people are figuring out a way to make it work. You know, U.S. stimulus bill, you know, looking like the Senate's going to try to pass that by the end of today. $350 billion to small businesses. At least that's the current chat. Hasn't been approved yet. It'll be interesting to see how that gets divided up and if that really becomes a plan. Because you know, everybody wants to be bailed out. I mean, everybody wants a bailout. You get a bailout, you get a bailout, and you get a bailout. You know, it's I think everybody's got a reason why you've got to save our industry. But I feel like in the retail industry, one of the big, I'm just spitballing here. I think one of the big fallouts is going to be real estate. Because I think when you look around in at least, you know, New York City and Brooklyn and some of the larger city centers, the storefronts, you know, the number of storefronts that I think will be shut down and be bankrupt will be enormous. And they won't be able to give that space away for quite some time. And I think the whole real estate business, as you know, real estate as it serves retail, is going to be a huge, you know, casualty in all of this. You guys, would you agree?
But I think to add to that though, we've been seeing that prior to this already. You know, you see malls that are struggling to get tenants to come in.
Exactly.
Anchor stores are pulling out. They're trying to find creative ways to, you know, I mean, take Sears. I mean, when Sears collapsed, how many vacant between Sears and Kmart, how many vacant large, you know, retail spaces were left open? So I think that is, it's obviously exacerbated. I mean, it's obviously, you know, highlighted through this, but that was the crisis that we were facing before this even happened. So it's obviously not going to make it any better.
Right. So maybe the challenge there from a design standpoint and from an experience standpoint is get better at pop-up shops and figuring out how to do impromptu, you know, maybe there's a huge surge of this sort of, let's try formats.
Yep.
And I think at the, I think at the corner of this, I mean, this is what, it's kind of hard, you know, we sit here and I think all of us can agree. I mean, we sit here and obviously we're nervous about our business. We're nervous about where the economy's going. When are we going to get out of this? And then, you know, part of it is I'm kind of sitting here and thinking, well, I think there's an exciting new boom of something at the end of this, because like you said, I think retailers have to get, you know, better grasp on how to use digital innovation in their store, online, to serve their customers. And everything that all four of us have been preaching for the past few years, they're going to look back and then say, I should have invested in that prior to this. And I like to think that there's still some, you know, some dollars and an urgency to say, you know, we do have to rethink about this. We do have to think of ways to, you know, continue to, you know, kind of have this social distancing in a sense where technology is that conduit. There's still a way of getting a human factor in there.
Right.
But I'm kind of, I mean, I don't want to, you know, say, gee, that, you know, the skies are open up and the sun is shining, but I do think that there's, for all of us in this industry, I think if we use this time to think about how do we go to market after this, I do think there's a positive upside for all of us to,
right.
you know, to help them.
Yeah, I tend to think more like what Phil is saying with the real estate side of things. If you look at what has been happening even before this started with things like neighborhood goods or beta, they've already kind of cornered the market in building these infrastructures around retail as a service. And I think that is another way it could be resolved. You know, and basically the companies that are more solvent and have the money would take over a space and then kind of provide all the parts and pieces for the retailer. I mean, I think what it'll do is make room and more inventory for other retailers and direct to consumer brands to kind of come back into the physical space. So I think it's just, you know, I like Bryan's approach of, you know, painting a positive picture, which we all want to do. And I think there is a positive picture, but I think what it'll do is the vacuum that's created by the vacancies will be picked up by companies that are looking to build these retail as a service platforms. I also think that things like micro warehousing, you've already started to see that with companies like Fabric building these micro warehouse infrastructures in malls, abandoned malls that are perfectly placed in a neighborhood for distribution are now getting turned into places for robotics infrastructure to fulfill 2-hour delivery. So again, we're shifting away from, you know, I doubt anyone's going to a mall right now, but, you know, if there are malls that end up being casualties of this, think about what happens to them. And it's a perfect place to put something like a delivery or distribution warehouse.
So how, but all those things that you're talking about though are big dollar, you know, backbone kind of fundamental technologies. And you know, the temptation these days is just to outsource it all to Amazon, right? And you get all that, you know, and you get your distribution, you get your warehousing and all of that. How does that make sense for a, you know, or is that an opportunity for some third party to come in and provide a competitive service for that? Like you said, retail as a service.
I think it's opportunity. I think that Amazon is a frenemy, right? They will do everything for you, but along the way, as you've seen in other industries, they've already take that information they learn from you and turn it around and just do it better than you and then put you out of business or put you in a position where they suck you up into their mothership, right? So I think you're right. I do think that we're looking at a time when it's just the nature of business where companies with bigger pockets and longevity are going to be able to weather the storm. But I do think that they can continue to present opportunities for the smaller ones by kind of building the retail as a service model. It's already there. Like building your own tech stack is how companies like Uber got created. They didn't build their own technology, they used other things.
Right.
So I feel like we're looking down this path of retail as a service models. All of these solutions, which we've already been looking at, are now going to be the fast way to get into maintaining your business. You know.
So are we saying that if, you know, after the dust settles on all this and, you know, the casualties are the casualties and there's all this empty storefront space and opportunity abounds, somebody comes with an idea, a bakery or, you know, an analog kind of a business, you're not going to survive unless you've got a core of developers behind you to do all the digital stuff? Is that an old person thinking right now?
Okay, boomer. You and I
Thanks.
are the same age.
I'm not a boomer. I'm technically not a boomer. I'm about 7 days away from being a boomer.
Are you?
Yeah.
Speaking from the elder set, I can tell you it's not.
Okay.
It's not that way.
All right.
But
Sonal,
I mean,
let me ask Sonal a minute. What do you think? Is if you don't have a digital team behind you and I want to start a new business, you say just go back to the nursing home?
I mean, I think the thing that this did was highlight the contingency planning, but I'm actually more interested, as you guys were talking about, this idea of we're all avoiding crowds. We're all sort of that you go to store, there can't be more than 6 people in the store. I was listening to a friend talk about.
Was it just was looking? Whole Foods had a limit of like 75 people in the store starting today.
So one of my clients sells rugged tablets. So the biggest inquiry they're getting is,
Cut that a little bit, Sonal. I'm not sure if that's just me. Try to start over. Say it again.
Is that? I mean, if you really think about it,
No.
When you walk into a store, firstly you have to. Can you hear me? Okay.
Sorry, just checking. Manolo, can you hear Sonal?
I can, but I'm on the Zoom, so
I'm on the Zoom too. So maybe that's just my end. All right, keep going.
Yeah, I can hear.
I can hear.
Okay, good.
So you walk in, you need to have 6 feet apart from you and everyone else. And even when that goes away, you're going to now be very aware of your physical space, right? So then you're now more conscious of what you touch, the screen you touch, the cash register, the checkout, everything that you touch, you put your phone down for a second. Yeah, but we're also more aware of it now, right? So how's that going to impact things? I was reading that article about what the future will look like, and they're saying, you were just talking about the malls, but this was saying that it's about 6 weeks away from a recovery of traffic to malls. If we follow China, people are already bouncing back and they're going out to physical spaces. But my question is, what does that look like? And then you brought up pop-ups before. So if you think about show fields in New York or places like that just pop up, is that better or worse? Are you thinking, oh, it popped up, it's clean, I will go in? But then the pop-up is kind of there for a period of time where they need a lot of traffic.
Right.
And then I don't want to be in the same space as there's more, like the whole thing about physically, we're just more conscious of it now, what we're touching, who we're around, how many people. So is that going to impact the way we see physical spaces for a longer period of time?
I think so. I don't think it's going to be over as fast as it's going to be over in some of these other countries, not in the United States. We're a lot slower to get our arms around it. So we're going to be thinking about these issues for quite a long time, assuming that they even cure it in the next 6-8 months. It may, who knows how long this is going to be out, but I think socially we're going to be very, very conscious of these issues. Yeah, go ahead.
So then if you think about that, if I go into a store and I don't want to touch it, so I want to go into a store, I don't want to be around all these people, I don't want to touch anything. So what does that look like? Do I only check out on my phone when I leave? I mean, we had a funny experience yesterday, and I live in Bushwick, Brooklyn. So I'm still in a place where the liquor stores are behind bulletproof glass. You point to your bottle of wine, etc. We wanted to buy some alcohol because it's the most important thing right now.
Sure.
So we go up to the store that's sort of sitting there, and there's a big sign that says, call this number. So we phone the number. The woman texts us a link to their app. So now we're on an app, and we had to sign up, and there's no credentials that make you feel, it's not PayPal checkout or something like that, that make you feel, this is okay. It's a bit dodgy. And you order online, then the guy turns up, and then the guy said to my partner, oh, I need you to sign. And he's like, I'm not coming anywhere near you.
Sure.
And then he kept the box out in the mudroom because he doesn't want to bring that box inside, because there's all sorts of rumors about how long this virus will.
Right.
This is making us. Yes, this is going to happen and go away, but we're
talk about the death of brick and mortar. That's, you just described a perfect death of brick and mortar. Go ahead, Bryan.
So I'll piggyback off on your beer story, on your alcohol story.
Yeah.
I just saw this new app. Maybe it's been out there, but it's called beerbroadcast.com.
What is
And
that?
a lot of the breweries have been signing up for it. And you go online, they have the new releases, you order the beer, you go to the brewery. All I did was put my phone up to kind of a pane of glass. They scanned the QR code. I had to stand 6 feet back. They had a line marked outside. And you stood there, and then they have a like a spot where they would come out with the beer. They would put it on that table. They would clean it down, and you'd go and grab the beer, and away you go. It was actually very seamless. Yeah, it was genius. And so now I don't know if this just popped up all of a sudden. And I, for those that know me, I love craft beer. But this was just the most convenient way I've ever gone to a brewery and just popped up. And as much as you hate not going in there, it still was that fact you got to go to a brewery, you got to come away from it, and you still had your
And you're drinking beer. I mean,
Yeah.
and drinking
that's
beer. But good beer. But
that's the
genius.
best one.
It's, I mean, in South Korea, when they were doing food deliveries, they would you would get your package, and the person would be in the hazmat sort of outfit, but there would be the temperature of the person that prepared your food on the label, and then the temperature of the delivery person also there. So it was like, I was imagining this sort of Black Mirror style thing where we would go to bars and clubs now, but you would have to have your temperature taken at the start. Now it is a 4-hour turnaround in some countries, not here, I know.
Yeah.
No, but
Well, that's the big thing. I mean, even in today's news, Best Buy and GameStop are transitioning to curbside pickup. And that's a big thing. And I think I was actually thinking about sort of retail tech. We've been beating our heads about how to use beacons in retail. This is a great opportunity where the person comes out and you're the beacon, and they pick up their phone and they find you in the parking lot and bring you the stuff. So it's sort of a reverse application of some great beacon tech that would be a killer app. So you never go into store at all. You just pull up, sit in a giant parking lot, and before you know it, somebody's knocking on your back trunk saying, open up, I'll drop this thing in there.
The one thing I've been wondering, I mean, I guess there's two things. I mean, one, and I forgot who mentioned it before, maybe it was Sonia. I like the idea about, you talked about design. I think, obviously all the retail stores are going to have to rethink how they merchandise in their stores, how they position fixtures, how they open up space for people to shop. And I think that's going to be a huge driver, because I think, like all of us, we're going to have this, tendency to stay away from stores where we feel crammed in with, people next to it. So I think there's a lot of opportunity, at least on the design side, to say, how do we, or store planners or designers, help retailers reconfigure their stores to allow for that social distancing. Then I wonder on the technology side, if the store does not go down necessarily the mobile platform and still rely on touchscreens, is there to be a new standard from the health department or whoever on, are those screens treated with a some type of antibacterial or so? I mean, there was a couple of other webinars that were talking about, treatments, the pristine screen, and all these other guys that have. Like, is that a new norm? I'm
right.
Just wondering, like, on both sides.
It's not limited to screens either. One of the guests I want to have on in a future episode, show, whatever we call the chat things, is a fashion retailer, famous shoe brand. And I'm asking them, like, you got to try on the shoes. You got to touch the shoes. You can't get around it, and how do you think about that a year from now when you're like, I don't know who touched this. And you certainly don't want other people's stuff on there. So it's a tricky challenge. And I think these Zappos, digital, let me send it to you, let me send it back, and start advertising our UV warehouse where we're killing all germs. I'm not sure if that actually kills coronavirus or not, but those kinds of advertisements would be great marketing. For me, I would lean towards that.
Kind of like when you go in the barber shop and there's the barber side. So you've
right.
just tried these shoes on, now they go in here.
Exactly right. Let me wipe those down for you, sir.
Yes.
It's funny, like there's, it's kind of scary, because I think in some part, we all like these interactions, we all like these traditional methods of interacting with salesmen, or like you said, trying on shoes or touching it. And it's sad to think that some of that will end up going away. And then it's also sad, like there's a bit of, us that's lost. Although the one on the opposite side, the one thing I read an article this morning was that there's been a bit of a resurgence in drive-in movie theaters lately.
Exactly
that
right.
I've read that there's a couple that are open. Obviously there's not a lot of movies that are out there, but there's like a little bit of this old Americana that has this chance of coming back, because that is, that kind of takes away the need to have to interact. People can still stay in their cars. I wonder how much of that, like where does that go? How do we, what's the balance?
Drive-through, the drive-in movie theater, the drive-in restaurant, everything's going to be drive-in. I mean, we need to reconfigure a bunch of our shopping malls for tunnels, and I think that would be key.
They were talking about social cohorts, like you are with a trusted group of people that are also social distancing. So now you might be a family unit, but you've trusted to bring in another group of people into your cohort. Maybe it's like, we'll all be like when you board a plane and you're group 1 and group 2, like everyone in group 1 can go into the store, like, because
right.
Yeah, I know. That's funny.
All right. Well, I think we've kind of reached the end of our little rundown, and I just wanted to say any final thoughts here for sort of future of retail. If you are investing some money right now in a retailer who you feel like is doing it right, now you're going to feel obligated to do one of your clients, I'll bet. But anybody's possible right now. Who do you think's doing it right for the 1 year, 5 year, 10 year out?
Ooh. I think we're all, I don't know. I who's doing it right? It's hard to put one on. I think they're all, I waited 30 minutes to get into a Home Depot the other day. And even though
you waited 30 minutes to get into one?
To get into one.
Wow.
And Home Depot has an online ordering platform, which not a lot of people are familiar with. And so I don't know there. I mean, Whole Foods, for as much as you want to say they had their act together, it's still, and there's challenges there.
Right. Those folks are on the front line. They really are the nurses and grocery store employees.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
I'm gonna go to the breweries. There you go. That's my prediction.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, I feel like it's a kind of going to be another Wild West as far as retail industry goes over the next who knows how long, and creativity is going to certainly win out, I think.
I just hope, I think that, and it's hard to say. I mean, you see some retailers that have kept their employees on. I mean, Apple, I know we always want somehow we always end up pointing to Apple and everything, but Apple kept on. Virgin had the massive layoffs. You like to hope that some of the businesses that we know have racked up millions and millions of dollars in profit, do you want to weather this out and do you want to take care of their employees and have a strong base when things come back? I guess the ones I'd say that will survive are the ones that actually have a value in humans and in people that have a value in their employees. I think those are the ones that will have the strongest start out of the gate, because they've realized that as a company they need their employees, and their employees have helped them grow, and that what they're doing during this time is a showing of investment in that. So I like to think that there's a bit of humanity, a nice silver lining, that those are the brands that come out that have stayed the course with their employees and have weathered the storm. That profits are one thing, but there's also a team that's behind this retailer and brand that's keeping it afloat. So
I would also add that there's probably just as many employers who would love to, double the salary of their employees, but just can't. It's a fixed equation of one side's income and outcome, and And it's not always about desire. It's a lot of times about the runway. And, you know, it's easy for a trillion-dollar company to kind of do some classy things. I'm not putting Apple down, but it's tougher for a, you know, a local grocery store to give a $2 an hour raise to the folks. But it's just as meaningful. It certainly is. So anyway, so Manny, I see you're sort of bumping on and off. Any last parting thoughts? No, he's
Sorry,
there.
my mic broke.
Earth to Millennium Falcon.
We're encountering some rebel forces up here. Sorry.
Some hostiles coming in, bogeys at 12 o'clock. Good. Well, thanks you guys for being a part of this experiment. And I apologize to the chat room. We've been kind of keeping an eye on the chat room. Adrian's been very chatty. Thank you, Adrian, and some of the other folks. And next time I'd like to try to get you guys involved a little bit more and asking questions. We'll get the tech part of this figured out. But I feel like it's really worthwhile, like we said before, to kind of see people's faces and just have a talk. And I'd invite any of you guys that are watching right now live, or even if you watch this back, to shoot me. Information is right there in the description of the YouTube video. And I'd love to invite everybody back on and just hang in there. Be safe. You know, take care of your family, but don't, for God's sake, stay inside, would you please? All right. Thanks, Sonal. Thanks, Bryan. Thanks, Manolo.
Thanks, Phil.
You guys take it easy, and we'll talk again soon. Keep watching this YouTube page. Subscribe, hit like, all those kind of things you hear a lot, because we're going to do it again real soon. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Take care.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Phil.